they've turned it all round into like it's the sex itself that's satisfying, and that the husband makes the woman satisfied through orgasms, and then they really started talking about it, not on like a, I don't know what they talk about, not on a public, not on a normal level. They were talking about it like experts down to people. Women need these orgasms, and this is the man, this is the kind of man that gives orgasms, and they really started messing behaviorally with the way people were in their marriages. And like I say, here I am born in this bloody sex hell. Like I say, the first time I gave it up about 7 years ago, just please, just no more. I had enough. I had enough women. I had enough sex. Kids, just let me be a human being with no sex and leave me alone. Because life is bad enough. And like I said, the rape, terrible. I went through, and I was kind of a bit of a mess, because what I realised I had to do was I had to learn to wake up like that. And it's quite a hard thing to do, but obviously that's what you have to do in order to beat the rape demons, because they're so used to all that sex that you get involved in when you're young. They just sit on you, and they have sex with you in the night, all night. They have sex with you whenever there's energy to have sex with you. They'll come and have sex with you again. So if you start pushing them away, they immediately turn up, and rape and rape and rape. And I kind of thought I'd never get there, but I'm not 6-7 years in now. I think it's about 7 years, because a lot of the things are based on the seven, so like the notes and the days of the week. So 7 years in, I'm feeling that I'm finally about clear. So I still have to be very, very careful. A lot of it is just distancing myself all the time. Like a few times I've had to remember myself to not talk to women, because 9 times out of 10, at least, they empowered. Women are empowered by seduction, and it's the normal looking ones that are most empowered. And that's what they love to do. And they love to put their thoughts on having sex with you, and it's the same. If you put your thoughts, and that's what Jesus Christ said. He said, look, if you even look at this woman in adultery, you've already committed adultery with her. Because he's talking about this body. Because this body is an energy body. It feels and goes wherever it wants immediately, and the same as this body. So if you're thinking about, well, you can work it out for yourself, and I guess that's the frightening thing, and that's the frightening thing. That's why people can't believe. But it's time for people to start considering that, so you stop being evil and you stop putting the energy body into all these circumstances, and maybe you can understand what hell is. Because at the moment you can wake yourself up when you're in a dream, and you realize you're having 5 different versions of sex with all sorts of different people. And I also started to see that as well, even till very recently, like terrible incest and homosexual dreams. And I've never had anything to do with incest or homosexuality at all. But I realized in chastity and waking myself up in dreams that all that was going on there. And this is why people think that there's darkness on the other side, because like no one's turned a light on. And how do you you turn a light on by visualization, or someone visualizes, or someone arrives, or an angel arrives, and then the light shines, and eventually the light will shine. The kind of terrible things that's going on in dreams, because in dream you naturally go where you feel most comfortable, and if you get involved in a lot of sex all the time, you naturally feel comfortable just wherever you want to, wherever the sex feels right. And so in dreams it's dark, you don't see who you're having sex with, and if you were to look up and look in your dreams who you haven't, you'd probably be terrified. And I was like that in the beginning. I was kind of sometimes a bit terrified to go to sleep. It's like, please, let it stop. I just kept, and that's really where, this is what Jesus is meaning about prayer, like, I'm going to start talking outside. God. This is what Jesus is meaning about prayer, because I can handle most things in this life, and I don't need to pray, and I don't need anyone really to pray for me. Maybe if I don't know, get arrested or something, maybe, even then, I really don't need much prayer in this world, but like I do need prayer in the other world. I just pray very, very vigorously, and for 6 solid years, that women stay away from me, and that one's hard. But and I sometimes ask the Lord, why do you let that woman or that woman talk to me or be in my aura? Like just recently, around 6 years in, I remember, like, I had a dream with a girl, and I remember very specifically, I was only 19 years old, and she wouldn't have sex with me. And it was kind of, yeah, we were getting on quite well, like along that kind of vein, but she wouldn't have sex with me. And I saw her in my dream, and I'm like, okay, it's nice that at least, I'm talking with a girl that, I know doesn't want to have sex with me, and that's nice. But, still, please, I just don't want the women in my dream. Just, this is how long it takes to get through all this mess that I've made in my subconscious with masturbation and all that sex and all that desire for women and all that open. Because it just opens, isn't it? Everywhere you go, in the car and the bus, everywhere you go, you're just having sex with all the women wherever you see them. Because you're loose. You haven't got any bridles on your thoughts and on your energy. Your energy is just going everywhere and sex with everybody. And that's where the drugs comes in, right? And isn't that the culture? I'll say it again, I said it in another video. Isn't this culture all about the man needs to satisfy his orgasm, and so he needs a wife? And if he can earn enough money, he can get a better wife. Isn't that really like what it's all about? I mean, is there any? There's no human in it. It's just completely demonic. I mean, it doesn't really work like that, does it? Because young people are attracted, with the God. God is very interested in the young people and their love affairs, because they're still young, they're still full of kind of innocence, and he's trying to direct them, and he's trying to fulfill their dreams, and not their dreams, but fulfill their courtship wishes, to get them married right, and to give them those great desires that they have, because they get so passionate about, they want one woman, or one woman wants one man, to matchmake. God gets very involved in it early on, huh? But by that time, really, I was already gone. Even though God was very, very good with me and helped me a lot, the things I wanted, and most of all, I would say, helped me get away from that kind of woman that many, many men go to, and I've seen many, many men seek and are good at going to, and this quick. You meet and you have an affair like this. You meet and then you go and have quick sex like that. And I had a few opportunities for those things. I never really read it. I was a bit naive and a bit stupid, I thank God, because I really avoided a lot of women like that. What I'm saying is, back then, I would have wanted to, or I would have thought in my mind that that's what I would have wanted to, but I'm glad I didn't. And it's not really women's fault, but women really fit the bill, don't they? women, it's a bit like Nazi prison guards. Well, they're just doing as they're told, huh? But they really fit the bill, don't they love all the manipulation, and you can see them now. It's like the prophecies before Israel fell. Go and read the prophecies, The women are jingling and mincing, They're just so haughty. They're just so full of their own. I am the most wanted, the most invulnerable. Everyone loves me. Everyone wants me. They're absolutely filthy and disgusting. Because it's like some kind of spiritual sex orgy with the image of woman. It's so easy to take down. And again, why is it so far gone that people can't understand? And where are the women? When did it flipped recently? It went. The older women are not in charge anymore. But now, the younger women influence the older women because the younger women have got the sex. And I even saw it in the House of Lords. That's why I just turned it off. It's like colouring their hair, and old women which are nice to talk to. Because they got character, right? And they got stories. Hmm? Stories about the people they met and where they go, and it's interesting. Hmm? And like apparently, old women with their stories, and a lot of them have been mothers, where you go through that 18 months of waking up and caring for crying babies, and 2 hours sleep, and, and doing it again and again, maybe 2, 3 children you do that for, and then all those different stages you go through in childhood, and all those different stages you go through in a marriage. Like there's some really tough women out there that have raised children and been faithful to men and are absolute icons of faithfulness and goodness. And apparently these little women that come along 15, 16 are more powerful, and they're going to tell an old woman what to do. Why? Who cares about the nasty little girl with the nasty little... I mean, she's egotistical, she's young, she's vain. It was all a little bit like that because you don't realise what it's like. Because you're so influenced by the world and petty media. You don't realise the important things. But I see it. Old women, they don't tell them off no more. I felt like saying in my preaching, but I didn't bother that. Back when I was going out drinking in the pub and that, you'd still get girls that would say, why are you dressed up like a tart? And why are you hanging around my man dressed like that? And just straight out, if you want to be around me and my husband, you better dress right and you better dress better, or else, I'm gonna fight you. It was just like that. There was an absolute do not behave like an adulteress, or else you're gonna get hurt. But now it's the other way around. It's like everyone is like trying to be the great adulteress, and the adulteress is like the queen, and everyone wants to be walking down the street with the adulteress. But apart from me, I can't. Like I say, I'm praying 7 years every day. I've prayed, please, keep her far, far away from me all times. Outside of my aura, not just far away from me, outside of my aura. And now it's finally working. And they've built this. This is why it's so mad and it's so weird. They've built this. It's like milking. It's like she milks people. It's like but it's masturbation and it's sex. Everyone has to have their orgasm every day or every night or twice a day or every 3 days. There is absolutely no balance to this raging, rampant sexual lust at all. And on top of it, you've got all these men going out there. Obviously, whatever they're doing is making the other side of whatever their business is making people poor. People don't seem to understand, like rich men. I've heard them say it. Like, who's that quote said? Well, if someone says that he got rich, you say, oh, on whose money? No, no, that's the way that it works. There's a pool. If you've got a lot of money, it just means you're taking it from lots of other people. Hmm?